hope you enjoyed chapter 9 with Miss Saunderson. I'm going to read to you chapter 10. So chapter 10. Just before the end of the summer holidays, Papa went to Paris. There were so many German refugees living there now that they started their own newspaper. It was called the Daily Parisian, and some of the articles Papa had written in Zurich had appeared in it. Now the editor wanted him to write for the paper on a more regular basis. Papa thought that if it worked out, they might all go live in Paris. The day after he left, Mama arrived. She was the children's grandmother and had come to visit from the south of France. "How funny," said Anna. Mama might pass Papa on the train. They could wave at each other. "They wouldn't though," said Max. "They don't get on." "Why not?" asked Anna. It was true, now she came to think of it, that Mama only came to see them when Papa was away. "It's one of them family things," said Max in an irritating, would-be grown-up voice. She didn't want Mama and Papa to marry each other. "Well, that's a bit late now," said Anna with a giggle. Anna was playing out with Vanelli when Mama arrived, but she knew at once that she had come because of the hysterical barking that issued from the open window of the inn. Mama never moved anywhere without her dachshund Pumple. She followed the sound and found Mama with Mama. "Darling Anna," cried Mama, "how lovely to see you," and she hugged Anna into her stout bosom. After a moment, Anna thought the hug must be finished and wriggled, but Mama held on tight and hugged her a little bit more. Anna remembered that Mama had always done this. "It's been such a long time," cried Mama. "That dreadful man Hitler." Her eyes, which were blue like Mama's, had but much paler, filled with tears, and her chins, that were two, trembled gently. It was different to hear exactly what she was saying because of Pumple's noise. Only a few phrases like "torn from their homes" and "breaking up families" emerged from the frantic barks. "What's the matter with Pumple?" asked Anna. "Oh, Pumple, my poor Pumple, just look at him," cried Mama. Anna had been looking at him. He was behaving very strangely. His brown hindquarters stuck straight in the air, and he kept flattening his head onto his front paws as though he was bowing. Between bows he gazed at something above Mama's wash basin. Since Pumple was the same tubby shape as Mama, the whole operation was very difficult for him. "What does he want?" asked Anna. "He's begging," said Mama. "Isn't he sweet? He's begging for that electric light bulb. Oh, but Pumple, my darling Pumple, I can't give it to you." Anna looked. Above the basin there was a perfectly ordinary round bulb, painted white. It seemed an eccentric thing for even Pumple to wish for. "But why does he want that?" she asked. "Well, of course, he doesn't realise that it's a bulb," Mama explained. "He thinks it's a tennis ball, and he wants me to throw it for him." Pumple, sensing that his needs were at last being taken seriously, bowed and barked and redoubled vigour. Anna laughed. "Poor Pumple," she said, and tried to stroke him, but he immediately snapped at her hand with his yellow teeth. She withdrew it quickly. "We could unscrew the bulb," said Mama, but it was stuck fast into the socket and it wouldn't move. "Perhaps if we got him a real tennis ball," said Mama, searching her purse. "Anna, darling, would you mind? I think the shops are still open." "Tennis balls are quite expensive," said Anna. She had once wanted to buy one with her pocket money, but didn't have nearly enough. "It doesn't matter," said Mama. "I can't leave my poor Pumple like this. He'll exhaust himself." But when Anna returned, Pumple had lost interest in the whole business. He was lying on the floor growling, and when Anna placed the ball gingerly between his paws, he gave a look of utter loathing and sank his teeth straight into it. The tennis ball expired with a sigh. Pumple got up, scratched the floor twice with his hind feet, and returned under the bed. "He's a really horrible dog," Anna later told Max. "I don't know how Mama puts up with him." "I wish we had money for a tennis ball," said Max. "We could use it at the fair." The fair was coming to the village, an annual event with the local children that everybody got excited about. Franz and Vanelli had been saving their pocket money for months. Somehow Anna and Max had only just heard about it, and they had no savings, so they didn't have any money to go. Their combined assets would just about pay for one ride on the roundabout, and that, said Anna, would be worse than not going at all. She had thought briefly of asking Mama for some money. This was after her first day back at school, when no one had talked about anything else except the fair and how much money they would have to spend. But Max had reminded her that Mama was trying to economise. If they were to live in Paris, they would need every penny to move. Meanwhile, Pumple, though no one called him lovable, made life a lot more interesting. He had no sense at all. Even Mama, who was used to his ways, was surprised. Even when she took him on the steamer, he made straight for the side and was only restrained with difficulty from throwing himself overboard. The next time she wanted to go to Zurich, she tried to take him on the train, but he refused to even get on it. However, as soon as the train pulled out of the station, leaving Mama and Pumple on the platform, he tore himself free from his lead and pursued it, barking wildly, right down the line of to the next village. He was brought back exhausted an hour later by a small boy and had the rest of the remainder of the day. "Do you think something is wrong with his eyesight?" asked my Mama. "Nonsense, Mother," said Mama, who felt that she had more important worries, what with possibly moving to Paris and having no money. "Anyway, even if there was, you can't buy him spectacles." It was a shame, because Mama, in spite of being silly about Pumple, was really very kind. She too was a refugee, but her husband was not famous like Papa. They had been able to move all of their belongings out of Germany and now lived comfortably by the Mediterranean. Unlike Mama, she did not have to economise, and often devised little treats which Mama would not normally have been able to afford. "I suppose we couldn't ask Mama to give us some money for the fair," said Anna, one day before Mama had bought them all eclairs at the local cake shop. Max was horrified. "Anna, we couldn't," he said very sharply. Anna had known really that they couldn't, but was only seen it as tempting. The fair was only about a week away. A few days before Mama was due to travel back to the south of France, Pumple disappeared. He had escaped from Mama's room early in the morning, and she thought nothing of it. He often went for a sniff around the lake, and usually came back quite quickly on his own accord. But by breakfast time he was still missing, and she began to ask people whether they had seen him. "Whatever has he got up to?" asked Herr Zern. He did not like Pumple, who upset his other customers, chewed the furniture, and had twice tried to bite Trudy. "Sometimes he seems to act just like a puppy," said Mama fondly, though Pumple was 9 years old. "It's more like his second childhood," said Herr Zern. The children searched for him half-heartedly, but it was nearly time to go to school, and they were sure that sooner rather than later he would turn up, probably accompanied by a very angry victim whom he'd either bitten or whose property he had destroyed. Vanelli came to call for Anna, and they set off for school, and Anna promptly forgot all about him. When they returned at lunchtime, they were met by Trudy in the air of great importance. "They have found your grandmother's dog," she said. "He drowned." "Nonsense," said Vanelli. "You're making it up." "I'm not making it up," said Trudy, outraged. "It's true. Pa found him by the lake, and I've been to see him myself, and he's quite dead. One reason I knew he was dead is because he didn't try to bite me." Mama confirmed Trudy's story. Pumple had been found at the bottom of the low wall at the edge of the lake. No one ever discovered how he got there, whether he had leapt down in a fit of madness or mistaken one of the large pebbles in the water for a tennis ball. Herr Zern suggested that it might have been suicide. "I've heard dogs do that," he said, "when they're no good to themselves or to anyone else." Poor Mama was dreadfully upset. She did not come down for lunch and only appeared red-eyed and silent for Pumpel's funeral in the afternoon. Herr Zern dug a little grave from the corner of the garden. Omar had wrapped Pumpel in an old shawl, and the children all stood round while she put him in his last resting place. Then, under Omar's direction, they each threw a shovel of soil on top of him. Herr Zern briskly threw on a whole lot more and flattened it and shaped it into a little mound. "Now for the decoration," said Herr Zern, and Omar tearfully placed a large plant pot with a plant on top. Trudy watched her approvingly. "Now your doggy can't get out," she said with obvious satisfaction. This was too much for Omar, and to the children's embarrassment she burst into tears and had to be led away by Herr Zern. The rest of the day was rather gloomy. Nobody really minded about poor Pumpel except Omar, but they all felt that they owed to her to not look too cheerful. After supper, Max went off to do his homework while Anna and Mama kept Omar company. She hardly said a word all day, but now she suddenly could not stop talking. On and on she went about Pumpel and all the things he used to do. How could she face travelling back to the south of France without him? He had been such good company on the train. She even had his return ticket. Both Mama and Anna had to inspect it. "It was all the fault of the Nazis," cried Omar. "If Pumpel had not had to leave Germany, he would never have drowned in Lake Zurich. That dreadful man Hitler." After this, Mama gradually turned to talking to the usual list of people who had gone to live in different countries or had stayed behind, and Anna began to read. But her book was not very interesting, and bits of the conversation kept filtering through. Somebody got a job in the films in England. Somebody who had been rich was now very hard up in America and his wife had to go out cleaning. A famous professor was arrested and sent to a concentration camp. Concentration camp? Then Anna remembered that it was a special prison for people who were against Hitler. The Nazis had him chained up to a dog kennel. What a silly thing to do, thought Anna, as Omar, who seemed to see some connection between this and Pumpel's death, talked more and more excitedly. The dog kennel was right by the entrance of the concentration camp, and every time anyone went in or out of the famous professor had to bark. He was even given scraps to eat out of a dog's dish and was not allowed to touch them with his hands. Anna suddenly felt sick. At night, the famous professor would sleep in the dog kennel. The chain was too short for him ever to stand up. After 2 months, thought Anna, the famous professor had gone mad. He was still chained to the dog kennel and having to bark, but he no longer knew what he was doing. A black wall seemed suddenly to have risen up in front of Anna's eyes. She could not breathe. She clutched her book in front of her, pretending to read. She wanted to have not heard what Omar had said, to get rid of it, to be sick. Mama had sensed something, for there was a sudden silence and Anna could feel Mama looking at her. She stared down fiercely at her book and deliberately turned the page as though absorbed. She did not want Mama, and especially Omar, to speak to her. After a moment the conversation started up again. This time Mama was talking rather loudly, not about concentration camps, but about how cold it was lately. "Enjoying your book, dear?" said Omar. Yes, thank you," said Anna, and managed to make her voice sound quite normal. As soon as possible she got up and went to bed. She wanted to tell Max what she had heard, but could not bring herself to talk about it. It was better not to even think about it. In future she would try never to think about Germany at all. The next morning Omar packed her bags. She had no heart to stay the last few days now that Pumpel was gone, but there was a good thing that she came to visit. Just before she left she handed Anna and Max an envelope. She had written on it, "A present from Pumpel," and when they opened it they found it contained little over 11 Swiss francs. "I want you to use this money in any way that gives you pleasure," said Omar. "What is it?" asked Max, overcome by her generosity. "It's Pumpel's return ticket to the south of France," said Omar, with tears in her eyes. "I got it refunded." so Anna and Max finally had enough money to go to the fair.